Hi, my name's Rich Harrington, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar. We're going to be starting in just a moment. Thank you to those who have joined us today. We're going to be talking about a very interesting solution from Athentech, and that is the QuickDesk solution that's built upon the Perfectly Clear technology. For those of you who are not familiar with Perfectly Clear, it offers huge time savings with automated image corrections. But one of the things that's really quite great is that you do have the ability to fine-tune this to your particular organization's needs, printing output, and other solutions. So we're going to be starting in just about 30 seconds. I'd like to thank you guys who are joining us here live, as well as those of you who are watching on the replay. We hope that we are able to present to you a great time-saving solution that boosts productivity and really helps your organization get better prints with less effort, less returns, and more satisfied customers. All right, well, my name is Rich Harrington. I'm going to be your host for this event, and I'll also be keeping an eye on the chat pod. So those of you who are watching this via the YouTube player or the chat pod, you are welcome to type questions in. We'll do our best to get to those today. And any questions that we can't answer during the webinar or any comments that are posted after the webinar is over on the YouTube page, we'll be sure to follow up with you. It would be great as well if you have any questions that you leave your email address for us, and we'll get in touch. All right, we're going to go ahead and begin. First up, I'd like to introduce Brad Malcolm, and Brad is the president of Athentech. And Brad, can you give folks just a little bit about your background and a little bit of history for Athentech as well?
Yeah, hey there, guys. My name's Brad. We've been around for over 15 years. We license our technology to all the large printers around the world, automatically correct over 30 million prints a day, 7 billion a year. And we also have software solutions such as QuickDesk that we're talking about here for print labs and also high volume wedding photographers. And we have desktop software as well that photographers and amateurs alike can use to save time.
Great. And also joining us today is Jeff Stevens. Jeff is our head of engineering. And Jeff, can you give folks a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I joined the Athentech team about, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago now. I run the product development. I'm in engineering, so I make the products and help evolve the core technology of how we produce corrected videos, corrected images really quickly. I'll be doing a little live demo here in a minute, explaining what the QuickDesk product is, and run you through the basics.
Great. And if you guys have questions during that demo or leading up to it, feel free to put those into the chat pod or into the YouTube comments when you're watching the video over there. And we will be sure to address those to the best that we can. And again, thank you for those of you who have joined us live today. We really appreciate that. And we will also follow up with anybody who's watching the replay. All right, well, let's begin. I know, obviously, I use Perfectly Clear a whole bunch. It really saves me a lot of time. But not everybody watching the webinar has heard of Perfectly Clear. Brad, tell us a little bit about what Perfectly Clear is, and then Jeff, it'd be great if we can actually show people. But let's start with Brad. Brad, tell us a little bit about why people use Perfectly Clear and what it's particularly good at.
Well, Perfectly Clear is what we call intelligent image correction, and the whole value proposition is to save you time. Whether you're a photographer or whether you're a lab, we automatically correct millions of images, so it's a big time saver. As mentioned earlier, we license the technology, so large companies around the world use it directly into their mobile apps or their desktop software or online solutions. But from the desktop side, how people use this, it's just really easy to use. And we have a whole bunch of unique technologies on there to basically overcome camera limitations. Even though cameras are good these days, there's still a lot of camera limitations, which results in underexposed images, images that are noisy, images lacking in color vibrancy, or they're not sharp. And so our core technology automatically makes all your photos look their best. And then the Beautify technology automatically makes you look your best by smoothing skin, enhancing eyes, removing dark circles, whitening teeth, all of that type of stuff. So some of this stuff you can do manually in other tools, but that's the whole dilemma. A, it's manual, and B, it's not the easiest to do. And with ours is one touch, and you can literally batch process through thousands of images. We analyze them. We never distort the image. We always make it look natural, which is what sets us apart from everybody else. So you're not going to have any clipping or distortion or any unnatural effects of the image, whether it's a landscape or you still look like you. and you can rely on it and trust it. So your image will always look better and never look worse, which is really the key point, because again, you could run through an auto levels on some softwares, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but you can't batch process through hundreds of thousands of photos and know that they're always going to be better.
And these days, saving time really does matter for many reasons. Jeff, if you want to queue up an example of some of the Perfectly Clear technology, we'll come to you here in just a second so people can see that. And I think really the strength here that people are excited about, and the reason why so many labs and large and small facilities use this, is the old adage of time is money. So people want to be able to get more things done more quickly. And it works out quite nicely that they can get great results, which means fewer images returned, fewer customer complaints, more satisfaction, more repeat business, and more orders. So Jeff, what do you want to show us today?
So I will show the QuickDesk product. So we as Brad said, we build this intelligent image correction technology into lots of different products. And the QuickDesk product is one that we've specifically designed for high volume lab workflows. We do have some individual studios using it, but we've worked with a lot of industry partners in the print industry to make sure that this is a custom design tool exactly focused on high volume workflow, high volume photo correction to be used in sort of a batch setting. So I'm sharing my screen now. This is what QuickDesk looks like. What I'm going to do is just drag in some images, and so QuickDesk is designed to work in jobs or batches. So you load in an entire photo or an entire folder of images, and by default it'll come up with what we call 6 images up. So you can see the photos that you've loaded. So this might be a single client. This might be a single job uploaded by a photographer that you're going to be processing, reviewing, printing, maybe posting online. But the idea is to work with jobs of photos at a time instead of individual photos. So on screen, what you can see as the images load is that they're already auto-corrected. If I click and hold down the mouse, you can see the before and after. You can also slide this little slider to see the before and after. So the first thing that QuickDesk does is auto-corrects all your images. You can pick what preset to apply. I'm just using the intelligent auto. You can change that for individual images, or you can change that for whole batches of images. But it's a great starting point to get you great looking results with almost no work on your own. If you like these and you want to move on to the next one, just hit save and next page. What that's going to do is take those first 6 images, process them with the settings that were applied with that preset, individually analyze each photo, correct each photo using that preset, and then write out those images to a designated place on your computer that you set up when you imported the images in the first place.
So I just want to recap that benefit there. You've loaded in the top toolbar several useful presets, and QuickDesk includes a ton of useful presets. Plus, people can actually build their own if they want, if they have specific needs or clientele, if they do maybe a lot of weddings or school portraits. So they can load in presets that are useful to them and very quickly choose those with just a single keystroke and go through 6 images in a matter of seconds or even less, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the real power of QuickDesk comes through intelligent presets that are automatically tuned to give you great results. And yeah, as Rich said, we have a huge array of different presets tuned for different kinds of workflows. The Perfectly Clear Essentials Intelligent Auto is a great starting point when you're evaluating. The preset will apply all of the various corrections that you see over here in the right column. Skin corrections, face corrections, eye corrections, as well as exposure and color corrections. You can tune those for specific photographers or specific shooting conditions. We have customers that do school portraits. So you go in, you set your lights, you set up your background, you shoot an entire school worth of kids, and you might tune a preset for exactly that audience. Apply it to one image. Once you like it, you can hit the sync settings button, and it will apply that same preset to all of the images in the shoot. And then you can just go through, review, make sure that there are any that you might want to tweak individually. Like And then what you can use are these quick correction buttons underneath the image. So you can either click or right click to add more or less of that correction. So you can very quickly tune the results in individual images or whole batches of images.
So the S is going to enhance the saturation, the E is going to enhance exposure, and then if you need to make adjustments to the color channels, it's very easy. Is that right, Jeff?
The S is strength. So that's an overall, that's the same application as the strength slider is doing here. So that's 0 is none. That's identical to the input image. 100% is the level applied by the preset, but then you can either boost up a little bit more than that by left clicking here, or right click here to lower the strength to get a little bit less correction. There are also keyboard shortcuts for all of these tools, changing images, saving images, so you can entirely operate QuickDesk with only the keyboard or only the mouse or any combination, which really gives trained operators the way to really tune how they work to move through those images really, really fast.
Now, one of the things I particularly like with that strength slider, Jeff, that I think a lot of folks miss until they start to use the software a bit, is that that is an exponential scale. So as you're moving that, all the sliders move the same relative amount. So an adjustment that's applied more aggressively grows faster, and some of the more subtle things like maybe sharpening or highlight recovery are going to be more subtle. So it makes it very easy to say a little more or a little less based on these presets, which makes them highly adaptable. Maybe the client was at the beach for the day, and over the course of a few hours, it started to shift throughout the day. You don't have to make a whole new preset or start doing everything by hand. You could just quickly adjust.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you need to get a little closer view for any of these images, so I'm in 6-up view right now, you can switch to single image view with the icons up in the top left, or you can switch to the split view and then zoom in, and which shows you the before image and then the corrected image. So this is a great way to fine tune, like, so this image has a little bit of noise. I can come into my details correction here and turn on my noise correction to smooth out that noise in the background. So we have a lot of different working styles. You can do the 6-up view and then zoom in if you need to on any specific image, and then quickly just switch back to 6-up view and move through your photos really quickly.
Excellent. In just a second, I want to go back to Brad to talk a little bit about some of the use cases and the business side of who uses this. But before we do that, I did want to point out one nice key feature that I know labs will like. Jeff, we have a histogram indicator there, so you can really track what's happening. And it also has clipping indicators to help people really pay attention to if things are having any clipping problems, if it's too bright or too dark. So that could be quite useful for folks who are going to be doing high-end print output and want to make sure that they're not crushing or losing details, correct?
Yeah, exactly. The histogram is a good visual representation of the tone of the image, and the highlight and shadow clipping shows you where you've hit either pure black or pure white. So yeah, it can be a useful confirmation of what you're seeing on screen.
Great. Brad, when you're ready, just turn your camera back on and we'll come back to you here to talk to you for a second. Great. So Brad, who is QuickDesk really for? I know that Athentech makes several different products and solutions. Who's going to benefit the most from QuickDesk? What type of organizations can really put this to use?
Well, there's two different, I guess you could say, high-level markets for it. One is labs that are actually printing, both pro labs and both labs that are doing a little bit of pro or not even pro. So the large companies license our technology. It's the engine they directly incorporate it into their products. We also have a hot folder product that automatically batch processes lots of images through, but it's fully automatic. And how QuickDesk came to be is we had several of our customers and labs that said, I want something that's the best of both worlds. And for them, they want fully automatic with the ability to approve each image and or fine tune. And that's how QuickDesk came. Many labs are used to seeing 6 images at a time, and they're used to hitting buttons that do density and CMY adjustments. So we bring the technology that we have that they aren't currently using in the form that they're used to. So they can still say we add value by looking at every image, but it's a time saver because your image is automatically corrected, and then you can tweak it from there. So that's the high level. So pro labs for example, and just any labs that are printing a medium-sized workflow. It's not for your labs that are doing, or printers that are doing millions of images an hour, for example. They take our engine directly. We also have a use case for some photographers, for example, wedding photographers that have a high volume of image. It's a standalone, it works on RAW, it works on JPEGs, and it's just a quick way to plow through a lot of images.
So folks perhaps who are doing event-based work, event photographers, wedding photographers who are doing lots of events every weekend, I've encountered a lot of photographers who spend so much time on post-production or have to outsource that post-production so they can keep up on things. This is actually a potential solution so they can speed through a lot of images. Brad, I think you made a really interesting point that I want to make sure people don't miss. You can still do that individualized attention of looking at each image, but most of the time now when you look at each image, it's going to be perfect or so close to perfect that you just want to make one small tweak rather than having to make 10 or 15 adjustments.
Yeah, exactly. QuickDesk wasn't a product that we invented. It was actually one that labs came to us and said, this is what we want. we love your technology and this is how we want to use it. And it's also a good starting stone or starting step because a lot of labs that are on the smaller side can start using Perfectly Clear in this manner and to get a good feel for their corrections. And then we find they step up to automating more of the workflow once they see how good it is and rely upon it as well. But yeah, we spent over a year and a half working with labs that said this is how we wanted to work, and there's several people that were instrumental in creating this as end users, and so we built it for their specs, not as something that we dreamt up, something that was asked to be developed.
Well, and that tends to often lead to great solutions and tools because those solutions and tools are directly built around people's needs. And so for those of you in the audience who are working specifically in this type of situation, this tool was made for you. Jeff, I'd like to come back to you a little bit and talk a little bit more about the QuickDesk interface. We had a pretty good overview there of the main windows and how things worked, but could you show some of the flexibility of the individual controls and maybe talk a little bit about presets and looks that might open up some other opportunities for people?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen again and get that back up. So what we can do is, let me move through the next page of images. Okay, we can look at this one. So this is a great example of sort of the core correction. So this is using our intelligent auto. Provides obviously the original on the left and the corrected version on the right. And each of those presets control this huge array of different corrections. You can use our presets as a starting point. You can create your own presets. You can adjust the amount of correction or application with any of the different sliders. And then you can save a custom preset. And so this is what you would do in sort of a high volume workflow if you're shooting in a specific condition, maybe like you said, a wedding photographer. You shoot inside the church, you collect a few thousand photos from indoor lighting with specific corrections, create a preset, and then you can batch apply that to the rest of your images, and then also use that for your next wedding, your next shoot that has similar content.
Excellent. And before we go forward, there was one question that came in the chat pod, which was a question of, do we charge extra for this technology? So before we go forward and go deeper in the software, Brad, can you explain, because there's a lot of different versions of Perfectly Clear out there, and this has been implemented across the board. Just the high level of what this product is how it is licensed. I know that it's available with a set license fee or volume discounts. Just give us a quick overview of how people access this, and then Jeff will come right back to what's there. I just know that if people are wondering about that they want to make sure that this is the right product for them.
So QuickDesk is software. When we license our engine, that's something that gets directly incorporated into products because it's an engine, like an engine to a car, what we call the SDK. But QuickDesk is actual software, so it's pretty brand new. And the introductory price on it is $895 US. So that's where you buy it, you own it. So if you aren't using QuickDesk, then yes, QuickDesk would be extra in that question. But when you buy QuickDesk, then everything that you see in here, you get with it. Not sure if that
I think that helps. So, we don't charge, there aren't any extra charges for unlocking specific adjustments. You get the preset library, you get the looks library we're going to look at in a moment, and you have flexibility here to make everything on your own. But this is a one product tool. So if somebody is using Perfectly Clear some other way, they've licensed it to their lab, or maybe they are a photo studio that's grown up over time using some of our Photoshop or Lightroom plugins, this is a standalone suite of tools that incorporates things in and has some key functionality that's designed to really speed up high volume workflows. Jeff, talk a little bit more about that high volume workflow philosophy of how we can get through.
Yeah, absolutely. The main thing that there are, I guess, a few key points that we built into QuickDesk to make sure it's laser focused on the high volume workflow. And one is working on folders of images at a time. So it loads these images, you get the before and after. So the first time you see a photo, it's already corrected. So we get the images on screen very quickly. We correct them. You can review them very quickly and just click next to jump through that next page of images. So operating on folders at a time with 6 images up is a huge time saver. The keyboard and mouse shortcuts make it very easy to make small adjustments, and the ability to apply different presets very quickly make it easy to hone the image correction on any single image. So you can move through not only individual images quickly, but whole batches of images quickly.
So Jeff, if you can quickly on your right correction panel, just scroll up a little bit. So one thing we do get asked is right where you see the quick corrections. And what that section is the strength and exposure in red, green, and blue. That's the same as what appears underneath each of the 6 up views. But if you wanted to skip an image, again, these are specific functionalities that Lab have asked for because they have it in their workflow. So if you see the girl, for example, and you like the original, you want to use it, you just hit the skip button and it will save out the original image. And if you're finding, if you go to, say, the second image and just hit Fix Dark, for example, Jeff, because that's a super easy one to see, and let's say you're finding all the presets need that, then you just hit the sync button, which is what you showed earlier, same place, and it will sync all of the images going forward, because we find often what the labs have said is we start to work on a couple images, we make a couple tweaks, we want that to happen on all of the rest of the images, then sync does that. And if you wanted to just copy and paste it for a couple images, then that's what your copy and paste is. And at any point, you can sync another correction, which takes that image and all the ones forward. So that's just some workflow tools to be aware of. And the key thing is when you hit the Save and Next page, it's immediately saving these 6 images in the background, and your next 6 images are loaded up, and therefore they can start to be printed immediately. So the operator is never waiting for anything to be saved or spooled.
So what you're saying there is, unlike some other desktop software which people are used to using, there isn't that batch export step at the end where you've done all this work and now it's time to let the machine process. QuickDesk is designed to be quick, and as you're processing images, as soon as you bless them and say, these are done, and you go to the next set, they're instantly put out to the server or to the target folder, and anybody who needs to access those, such as web designers, printers, team members, they're ready for use. Is that accurate, Brad?
Yeah, exactly. We had lab operators say, we love the concept, but don't make us wait a couple minutes after I've looked at 200 images, and that's why we save them out in the background.
Yeah, and so when you first load the images, we have this job configuration dialog. I'll show that to you here in a second. And so when you create the job, you define where you want your images saved. If you want to back up the original image or overwrite the original image or move it to another location. So you just open up a job, it applies the same preset, and it predefines where you want the output images saved. So you do that ahead of time. So when you go through your images, it's super fast. You don't have to think about any of that. You can just click Save and Next, and it'll add those previous images to be corrected. You can also shortcut that and just hit Save All. If you know all the rest of the images are similar to the current ones, you can say, okay, let's just finish this job, save all with the current presets applied, and it will finish that job for you. Because a lot of times we find that our labs will tune the first few images, But if it's a shoot where all the images are have very similar content, you don't actually end up needing to review every page individually, especially if you have hundreds or even thousands of pages of images. You can just hit save all. It'll process them all in the background. You can load up the next job and move on to your next customer right away.
And one thing I want to make sure that doesn't get lost from things is your exposure algorithm is particularly unique. Rather than saying, oh, this image needs to be brighter, this image doesn't, it's really evaluating the image for what is the ideal exposure. And then we can adjust and override that a bit, but many of the adjustments in Perfectly Clear are highly automated. So even though you might apply a preset to 100 images that have variations in exposure, some of the adjustments like exposure and some of our color adjustments are going to help bring those towards the target very quickly. Brad, can you explain that? Because that's highly unique. In fact, I believe it's patented.
It is for sure. Yeah, we got a lot of unique patents on the technology, and that's why labs that are used to this workflow can have the similar workflow that they have right now, but with turbocharged technology. And that's where the time saving comes in. So the exposure algorithm, we look at every pixel independently, and it's like a 20 megapixel image was taken with 20 million independent aperture. So each one we adjust. So if it's a bright sky, we don't adjust anything because, as I mentioned earlier, we will never clip a photo. We will never shift the color in your photo. And so that's what makes the exposure unique. So dark areas we can crank up a lot, bright areas we don't do anything. So that's one example. And that's why we call it perfect exposure, because it does produce unique results on that aspect. And same with the color vibrancy and same with the noise removal. We can go through, but each one is unique in terms of how we make sure the image is accurate and how we analyze it. We detect faces, and therefore we optimize exposure for faces, and so backlit scenes don't get fooled, for example. Sometimes we darken the image a little bit as well if the image is too bright or taken in a backlit scene. So there's a lot that can be done.
And that automation, for example, on your noise, a lot of people are very nervous to leave noise correction on, because if you hit images that don't have noise, sometimes key details that are in a scene that you want, details like hair and texture and subtleties, can get negatively impacted. But with your noise algorithm, it does a very good job of analyzing and finding true noise, camera noise, and only affecting that, leaving other areas of the photo unaffected. I don't know, Jeff, if you have a good example image queued up, but Brad, I think this intelligent automation is something that Athentech is well known for. And it is also something that, while lots of other people talk about artificial intelligence and other key benefits, this is not something new to you. You guys have been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah, we've certainly been ahead of the curve on that, and that's why we say it's real intelligence, because the results are not artificial; they're actually real. And I can share my screen here quick, Rich. I don't know if you need to give me access, or can
all you have to do, Brad, is click the green button in the left-hand toolbar that says screen share, and just share your desktop.
All right, can you see?
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, so here, this is a slide. I'll just maximize it here on noise removal, for example. And in essence, what we do is we remove the noise, we keep the details. So noise is removed at least 2 to 3 stops. So an ISO 1600 can be ISO 2 to 400. This particular example, I took this, it was at drawing a mental blank here. The special dances in Hawaii, so you can't use the flash at night. Taken with a Canon 5D Mark III. Got to crank up the ISO. So even with good high quality cameras, it's not just camera phones. You get noises you can see in the left, and so the right image is all cleaned up and removed with that. If I cycle back just quickly here as well, we'd asked about exposure, and on here you can see the bottom left where with exposure, we treat it as if, or the challenge with exposure is wide dynamic range, a single aperture. We correct every pixel independently. That's what we show on the right. And that's why we never clip. We don't lose color vibrancy. So there's a lot of uniquenesses to there. We also have technology in the medical realm that really makes your image, or sorry, we work on X-ray images, and we've retrofitted that to photography. So that's what makes your images pop a lot. That's why we call it depth instead of contrast. You can see the bird on the right looks like he's going to pop off the paper. And whether that be the beautified technology or whether that be the core technology, yeah, everything is designed to save you time, but apply real science behind there. And the slide shows the total corrections. So just load it up. In total, that can be applied automatically or as a combination of presets.
And Jeff, let's go ahead back into the user interface for a moment so people can see some of these things come to life.
Sure.
One of the things that I really love about the way the technology works is that it makes both sides of the brain happy, and it also makes both kinds of operators happy. The ones that are truly time stretched and need to get a lot done can, but when there's something you want to tweak or you want to finesse or you want to stylize, we actually unlock a lot of manual control too. So people can really get the benefit of both. The ability to save a lot of time, but when the situation arises, or maybe there's a special request or note from the client, you don't have to leave QuickDesk to go to some other application to do specialty jobs. You can do a lot within as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's where a real high volume workflow comes from. Being able to batch correct, load up whole jobs at a time. It could be 5,000 images in a job. It could be 100,000 images in a job. Move through them with our intelligent auto corrections. But then if you see one that needs a little extra help, you can zoom in either in the 6-up view or switch to just a dedicated view of that one image, and then do your really detailed work on only that one image. You can do the beautify corrections, or like you said, the noise corrections, but then switch back into that high volume workflow, working pages at a time. So it's really a good blend of our original lab tool is totally automated. There's no interface. It just batch corrects images, and that's been a great product for us for decade. And then this kind of bridges that entirely automated batch correction workflow versus the one image at a time, where you can really dive in and get detailed results.
Excellent. So I think here, as we're doing some of that, Jeff, why don't we go through sort of from top to bottom some of those adjustments on the right there of what's useful to folks. And we can point out some of the ones that are automated, as well as talk about a couple of the other ones that might be new. I know a lot of folks have obviously heard of Perfect, and they might have looked at us before, but they might not be familiar with some of the new improvements. One of the great things about QuickDesk is it takes in the 3rd generation of our technology. So there are a lot of new things that have been recently added.
Yeah, we've got a huge array of image correction technology built in. Let me open up those images again, and I'll get back, share my screen, and we'll walk through some of those in detail. Let me share my window here.
One good one, Jeff, is on the screen that you were a second, where there's the church to show the great outdoor presets.
Okay, I'll get there in just a second.
Got it.
So this is opening that same job again. All the images come up. It automatically corrects them. So each image, once it's on screen, is automatically corrected. Let's go find that church photo.
And if you hit the car actually in the bottom left, or actually where you are right now, are good. So we've had people ask, hey, I want to be able to pop my image even more. And so if you go to single mode view, you can just see it more. And then on the left, if you expand that panel, Jeff, that's where we have some presets. And one of the packs that I've been playing with and really enjoying it is the Great Outdoors. So if you scroll to that, Jeff, the Great Outdoors, and then hit, say, landscape, blue sky, what it's going to do is pop the greens and pop the blues a lot more. And same with the mid-afternoon. And then another one that's really cool is the landscape magic hour. So you can see here how your foliage really comes out. The magic hour creates a 5 o'clock look where you get the warm sun, and it just does a great job of showing it. You can see how it really automatically mimics the look. And then you can
speaking of showing it, I know a lot of people like the speed of looking through lists, but as you get familiar with our software, we make it kind of easy for people to see what those are going to look like, right?
Yeah, we've got this little thumbnail view here, so you can come over to your, let me minimize this. My screen is kind of small here, but instead of seeing just the list view, you can actually see the various presets, and just click through, pick which one you like. When you like it, hit close and save. It'll save that image, move on to the next one, and you can cruise through a huge number of photos, even shrink that down to get a few more of these on screen to make it real easy to move through a large volume of photos.
So Jeff, can you go to that beach shot, which is up above this one as well?
Yeah.
Even if you expand out.
That one or
the one with the palm trees, something we don't have in Calgary right now. And then again, if you go to the great outdoors, you can see how, if you click a couple of the first ones, you can see how much for the great outdoors, the colors really pop. And we've had a lot of people say, yeah, help me emphasize these colors. Several companies, and so that's how we've come up with these. So you can see the blue skies really pop out and the foliage really enhances. And another thing which would be cool to show is some of the looks where Richard mentioned stuff that's new in V3. On the creativity side, there's some really cool looks. So for those people that want to apply a bit of artistic, you can apply many of these that Jeff will show, from black and white, but also color film stocks and color grades.
And these sort of retro looks have become very popular. Obviously, a lot of folks are doing these sorts of things for social media, but even for weddings and events, sometimes people will want that classic look. And the strength slider, there's a separate strength slider for these too, Jeff, right? These are not just baked in filters that you can't control.
Right. And this also allows you to batch correct an entire shoot, giving a, maybe more neutral or natural look, but then come back through and very quickly do a black and white or sepias or other tone versions. So if you are shooting a wedding or processing wedding photos, you can give that option to your client very quickly.
And how this is relevant on the business side is this is all designed as a time-saving tool. So we're not trying to be an Instagram where they got all this creative stuff, but we have had people ask for some of these creative looks, and these are much more advanced than the funky filters that you have in other stuff, and that's why we call them looks. But from a lab side, what we're finding lots of labs are doing is they'll apply a core level of automatic correction, and often do that at no charge, and that's what their customers get to make sure their images look their best. But then for further, say, portrait retouching, stuff that used to take 5 to 20 minutes in Photoshop, they apply with 2 clicks or fully automatic, and they charge an extra $5 or $10 for enhancement for that. And then if you want a couple of creative looks, you can create them automatically, show that. So that's a way to monetize further, because now you got different variations of a photo. You can upsell that. But what used to take a lot of time or wasn't even possible before at a lab level is now right at your fingertips. So that's from the business side of how to monetize, or one of many ways how to monetize.
We do have one question that I'm going to attempt to answer for folks. So some folks who are familiar with our software design for professional photographers and might be joining us a little bit late said, what's the difference between Perfectly Clear Complete 3.5 and QuickDesk? We've covered some of that earlier at the beginning of the webinar, but Perfectly Clear Complete is a technology that's really available for 2 types of users. One is it's a plug-in technology that works with many popular photo editing platforms such as Photoshop, Lightroom, Capture One, and other tools. And it is also available as a standalone application for those that are looking for a desktop alternative. QuickDesk is not really designed for the individual photographer unless that photographer is doing very high volume, sports portraiture, event work, needs to be able to do huge amounts of batch processing. And it's really designed for small labs or others looking for control who are doing very high volume of output. Brad, you know this so much better. Can you just re-describe the use cases or who this product is for one more time?
Yeah, the QuickDesk has all the same technology that Perfectly Clear Complete does, and they look very, very similar in terms of the layout, the interface. So QuickDesk just has a enhanced turbocharged workflow designed for high volume, so you can crank through fully automatically while previewing call it 500 images an hour. You can't do that in Lightroom. You can't do that in Photoshop. You can't do that in other tools. And our standalone, you can do that one by one, but standalone that comes with complete, but this is a standalone, but has the enhanced six up view. So this is optimized for high volume. Photographers that have a higher volume that want to plow through and save a lot of time can definitely use QuickDesk as well.
And Jeff, can you show us that 6-up view again for people who might not have noticed that before? There's additional controls at the top, and there are also a handful of other buttons underneath there that are giving us some extra control. So there's a lot of functionality here built around the synchronization and the ability to quickly apply the same adjustment to an entire job or multiple images while making small tweaks along the way. Jeff, can you talk about the user interface design philosophy? Because this really came directly from customer feedback from those people working in photo labs that had extremely tough deadlines.
Yeah, exactly. When we were developing this product, we sat with working lab operators, with lab business owners to understand what the primary slowdown in image processing was. Some of these labs didn't do any post-processing before. It was just too time-consuming. So they took raw images straight from their clients, printed them, put them in the mail, and shipped them out. And others were selling a service to review, color correct, and then maybe also enhance, doing the beautify, the backgrounds, the looks. That was an upsell product to them. But it was basically Photoshop driven. It was very slow. They were loading one image at a time. Or some were using some other tools to try to automate that process, but it still ended up being largely a manual process. So every image got reviewed, every image started from scratch. You had to make decisions about what to do with every photo. So what we did is we said, okay, how can we blend our automatic image correction with the need for an operator to review every image before it's sent to the printer? But still do that very quickly and allow you to go through pages of images. We try to say that, you can do, 600 to 800 images an hour. And obviously that's entirely up to you. If you need to review everyone and are making individual corrections, that will take you more time. But most of our customers, especially once they learn the keyboard shortcuts or mouse shortcuts and learn to build their own presets, can get great throughput, correcting images where in the past they either wouldn't be reviewed at all, they would just be printed without any review, or just a very cursory review. So that's sort of the whole idea of QuickDesk, getting automatic image correction, great looking images, so what you present to your client looks the best, and you did it in the least amount of time.
Excellent. And there was a question about presets and looks because people were responding well to those, and they were wondering about additional ones. From time to time, besides the customers having the ability to make and save their own presets based upon their output devices and needs, we do have a whole extensive collection of presets and looks that have been designed by top retouchers, photographers, and makeup artists that we make available for sale. Brad, can you talk a little bit about the strategy behind this, of how this can help bring some world-class skill to other folks, why we decided to make this an extensible system?
The extra presets and looks?
Yeah, the fact that the users here using QuickDesk can actually save their own presets, or that they have the ability to add additional ones.
Yeah, you can, of course, not sure I quite understand, but yeah, you can save your own presets so you can have your custom look or preference for your lab. Our customers that are in school photography, for example, have specific ones because of the backdrops and green screen they're doing versus somebody shooting sports. We have photographers that create food presets or portrait retouching or movie star presets, and those you can go to and purchase those at an incremental amount. They're about $10 to $20 per pack, and so those are available for purchase as well.
Good. And hopefully what we'll see here, and you can see there on the left that Jeff is showing you both the looks and the presets. Both of those offer visual browsing. So the tool is very accessible to the new user. It's designed first so you can see what you're going to get, and then once you start getting comfortable with things, using just simple keyboard shortcuts or quick clicks, depending upon your preference of working, you can refine things in just seconds, if less, depending upon how fast you operate. I know that when you guys designed this, you worked with a few maestros whose fingers move incredibly fast, almost like the sushi chef and the guy that's just flying through the preparation of all the ingredients. They can really get going at a high speed.
Yeah, and once you master the keyboard shortcuts, what we talk to basically two different groups of operators. One wanted to use only the mouse, so you right click or left click to increase, and right click to decrease. So with you can just keep your hand over the mouse and move through images very quickly, make density correction changes very quickly, either up or down, and then move on to the next set of the images. And then there are also, as you said before, keyboard shortcuts for all of these. In the back page of our user manual, which is online, shows you all the keyboard shortcuts. So an operator, after just a little bit of use, learning those keyboard shortcuts, can get great throughput, move through the images really, really fast.
Now, we're coming sort of towards the end of our demonstration. We promised people that we were going to keep this to under an hour, but a lot of folks have been interested in this, and there is a free downloadable trial so people can get hands-on with this. And Brad, I know that this is targeted for a very specific group of people. What's the best way for them to get in touch with Athentech so you guys can set up either a personalized demo or help customize a solution for them? How do you want them to reach out to you?
There's contact on our website. You can email myself, brad@athentech.com. We have info@athentech.com, which will get to the right people and will respond to you as well. And but yeah, if you go to our website under the For Business, that's where you can download it. There's a contact button which will automatically email. So it's just, you don't have to remember any specific email, but there's several of us standing by and we're happy to help.
Excellent. And I know that this will help a lot of folks for them to be able to get hands-on with it and try it. Thank you so much for those of you all who have joined us today. Jeff, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, give it a try. We think it's a great product. It's getting great adoption, and we're eager to hear your feedback once you have given it a try.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and do be sure to download that trial so you can put this through the paces yourself. And when you visit the site, just go ahead and get in touch with the folks at Athentech. They'll be happy to answer any of your questions about this or help devise a custom solution. There is also discounts offered if you need more than one copy for your facility, so you'll be able to find out more information about that on the website. Thanks again for tuning in, and we have a lot more information and downloadable files on the website so you can give it a full try. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.